It's Friday, November 28th, 5:30 p.m. We are back. Brad is back. It is another episode of the Golden V podcast, joined by Brad Challoner, kicking off the 2025-2026 NLL season. How are you, Brad?
I'm fantastic, thanks. And yeah, we are kicking it off. Game one, Oshawa and Toronto started about an hour ago. We're approaching halftime. It's 1-1 last time I checked.
Okay.
Nice to step away and catch up, man.
Yeah, and I was going to say that. That's right, because when I was doing research for this particular episode with you, I was like, "That's right. That game kicks off the season an hour before we're supposed to start." But yeah, let's just dive right into it here because lots of stuff to talk about, and I got lots of notes here for you as well. Let's just kick this one off right off the bat because obviously notes because everybody's going to want to hear this. The 4-peat for the Buffalo Bandits with the acquisition of Mitch Desnew from the Buffalo Wings for the first round pick in 2026, a 2028 second round pick, and a 2027 second round pick if the Bandits acquire a 26 second round pick. Is this a 4-peat year for the Bandits? What do you think?
I don't think it's going to be a 4-peat year for the Bandits. We'll start off swinging here today, Ben. So they do add Mitch Desnew, who's a former defensive player of the year in 2022. He used to play for that team before he went to Toronto, so he's familiar with their systems, their coaching staff, some of their players, getting the band back together. Defense is not going to be their problem. Matt Vince is 43 years old. He's another year older, but he's still in the upper echelon of lacrosse goaltenders. Desnew is going to help them, but it's going to be goals this year. And they lost two big pieces in Chase Fraser and Chris Cloutier, who left in free agency to go over to Las Vegas. And I have to tell for Buffalo this year, we'll kind of find out, are they the New England Patriots of lacrosse, where they could have kind of interchangeable pieces and still find success, right? That's how I'm waiting to see this year. Can they win without these valuable depth pieces that they've had? They've got Lucas Nielsen, who's going to be their young righty, who's going to look to fill some of Chase Fraser's production. And then on the other side of the floor, they've got Ryan Benesh, who they just activated, who's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. But again, another guy who's second or third oldest player in the league. How much does he have left in the tank? And he replicate what Cloutier did? So, it's not your grandmother's Bandits this season. It's going to be probably their toughest opportunity to 4-peat. Their defense or goaltending is still upper echelon, but I think I don't know if they come a couple goals shy this year of getting to where they need to be.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I know. And I was just looking at some notes here too, because I was actually at the Mann Cup in the summer, and I remember watching Dane Smith and that lineup. That actually Warriors captain Brad Mitsky told me at the time, because he was playing for the Bellies, that's an all-star lineup. And I just remember watching Dane Smith and I don't know what it is about that guy on the lacrosse floor, but he is magic to watch.
Yeah. Him and Josh Byrne, you kind of look at them. They're the dynamic duo, right? So I kind of always loop those guys together. They're both just athletic, physical specimens. They're freaks. They're guys that are full-time lacrosse players. So they're so dedicated to their mind and their body and their game day rituals and their routines. And they're just a special dynamic duo to watch. And they've done it now, winning the match together and 3 NLL championships together. They're still going to be electric this year, those two.
Yeah, that Mann Cup was a thing in itself, right? I mean, I was there for 2 games and I was like, oh man, how could you not want to be? Just the atmosphere.
What games were you at?
3 and 4. 3 and 4.
Good. Yeah. So both Six Nations wins too, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So
just that kind of lacrosse atmosphere for that kind of money in that proximity. I live in North Van. I drove to New West. You really can't beat it, right? I mean,
no,
that was something special. But let's keep moving here because I was looking at actually Ty Merrow's season preview today, and I incorporated some of Ty's stats and stuff in here because he and I spoke last year about how he and you talk, and just what Ty's trying to do with stats to make not the game of lacrosse honest in the NLL, but provide accuracy in terms of stats, right? But I had another note here before we get to Ty stuff. Mitch Jones goes to Las Vegas, and I was reading Ty's breakdown. What does that do for the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, right? I mean, they're the worst team in the league last year. They've changed that lineup. what does a team like the Las Vegas Dogs do this year?
So they took those two guys that I just mentioned from Buffalo. So Fraser and Cloutier will jump into that lineup. And then Mitch Jones will be their quarterback, right? I'm using football analogies here today, but
no, that's fine.
Jones is going to be their quarterback, and receivers or running backs will be Cloutier and Fraser kind of doing the dirty work for him. But he's a facilitator. He's an elite passer. He's a hungry leader. Like Mitch Jones is going to put his team on his back every single night and single-handedly at times will teams to victory. He's one of those guys that makes players around him better. And I think they need him for that identity of that offense. They've got a lot of young guys with Poitras and Webster and guys kind of still getting their feet wet in the league. But with Mitch Jones's experience in man cups and deep playoff runs and what he's been through in his career, he's going to be the bona fide official leader of that team, and they can all kind of follow in his charge. And they're a fantastic offense. I'm going to put their offense to start the league on paper as one of the best teams on paper in the National Lacrosse League. It's going to be their defense and their goaltending that are going to be the question marks, but they're going to be able to score their way out of some problems this year. And Mitch Jones being 100-point guy, he's going to kind of drag them into the fire every night.
Right. Yeah, because there's been lots of changes, like you talked on your episode of your podcast yesterday with Andrew McBride, and I listened to that just in Andrew's thoughts and philosophy about what a team like the Colorado Mammoth are going to do this year. We're going to get to the Mammoth a little bit later, right? Because we're going to preview the Warriors and Mammoth game as well that you're going to be at because you're going to be broadcasting along with Ted. That's something else to get to, but there's some other interesting storylines that I picked up around the league. I was looking at Ty's preview regarding the Calgary Roughnecks and what they may represent. Obviously, for Warriors fans, you know that Aiden Walsh is now their goaltender and how well Walshy played for us last year before Christian Del Bianco got here. What is a team like the Roughnecks going to do? It sounds like a young team with not many proven players, and there's going to be a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it, development there.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a rebuild or a retool or what you want to call it. You can quickly kind of retool and rebuild a team in the National Lacrosse League. We saw the Saskatchewan Rush do it. Like they had their dark times and they're right back to the finals last year. Like you can quickly turn around a team, and it's going to be one of those years in Calgary. They just lost so much to free agency, but they drafted really well. They got two kids out of Victoria in Noah Manning and Kyle Pepper, who are both can do a lot of things well on the lacrosse floor. Yeah, they're both offensively talented. Pepper's going to kind of play a two-way game and stay and play. Manning's got a wicked shot from the outside. He can get inside. He can beat you in a lot of different ways. So they brought in some young pieces. Tanner Cook is now going to be like the leader of this offense. So I expect a big year out of him, but just a lot of young guys getting touches. Maye would be another one of those players. It's going to be a long year in Calgary, but I'm excited to think what they're going to look like in 2027 or 2028 as these guys kind of age and get their touches under them. It's going to be an experience year, but they've got Dane Doby in their player personnel pool, who's kind of assisting with scouting and drafting and player development. And like, I want to go where Dane Doby goes, right? Like he's just one of those guys that is going to drag you into the fire and make you a better person and a better player with his competitiveness. So they've done some good things behind the scenes to bring in a guy like that to help this young team. They're going to take their lumps this year for sure. But I'm excited to see what they're going to look like in a couple of years.
Yeah. And I had a couple I've got a few more notes for you. I had a couple of things that you put out. The NLL, always talking about Ty and his stats, but the NLL will be tracking two new
so
stats.
Good, right? Like
What's that?
His website's so good, right? Ty's website is just so good, right? To dive down and see it just helps you look at the game in a different way.
Yeah, and like what I did was I reached out to Ty last year through Twitter. He nicely responded. I had a conversation with him that I taped, and then I transcribed it with Otter AI so I could read all his thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And it transcribed it, and he was saying about how different people he talks to in the league, like yourself, and he's like, seek out these guys in the NLL if you want to learn about lacrosse. And he mentioned your name, he mentioned Teddy's name, he mentioned Pat's name, and so Ty's website is great. I went to Ty because I was trying to find a guy that would give me really good stats that would help me break down the game more. And I didn't realize he worked for the Swarm and all the stuff that he does, right? And so, yeah, I want to give a special shout out to Ty on this one because I rely on him a lot. the thing that you shared was touches and effective passes. You put that on Twitter, and then you wrote dudes with the top 5 touches from last season. Jeff Teat obviously being number 1. We'll talk a little bit about these 2 stats, and then we'll move to some Warriors stuff because you got Keegan Ball here, Warriors forward at 1469. You got Ball with effective passes at 1145. What's the sort of thinking behind these 2 stats?
So it's kind of cool that the league's tracking it. It's going to be literally touches. So every time Jeff Teat or Keegan Ball gets the ball on their stick and makes a pass or tries to shoot a shot on net or they turn it over, like every time they touch the ball, they're going to calculate that this year. And it's Omen's work by whoever's doing the stats for the league. It's going to be fun to watch them kind of track that. But essentially, you can get some cool numbers out of that because what a lot of guys were trying to calculate right away was, okay, it's not surprising that Jeff Teat touches the ball more than anybody else in the National Lacrosse League. He doesn't have, the past, the greatest supporting staff in Ottawa, so the ball is going to be in his stick. What's cool to see is of the 1,700 touches that he had, how many of those turned into points? And for Teat, it was 130 or something, which equates to 8.9%. Steve Govett, who's a former player, coach, general manager in this league, he put the kind of challenge out there. And he's like, well, let's see. Obviously, if you touch the ball more, you're going to get more points. And those numbers are going to be inflated. But let's see who touches the ball the least and has the most points. Right. So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole a couple of nights ago to kind of compare least amount of touches with most amount of points. And Riley Lowen, who Vancouver let go in free agency. They didn't really have a home for him this year. He just found a great spot in Calgary. He's one of the most effective players on converting his limited amount of touches into points in the National Lacrosse League, and he does it somewhere around 11%. And if you go down through the rosters in the National Lacrosse League, I kind of judge that 10% conversion rate puts you in the upper echelon in the National Lacrosse League. So if you're Ben and you're playing for the Calgary Roughnecks and you catch the ball, you get 100 touches and you get 10 points, you're going to be one of the top guys in that statistic in the league as far as converting your touches. So it was a lot of secondary guys like Ian McKay, Cloutier and Fraser were both on that list. Cal Buchanan, all those Buffalo guys that were capitalizing. And I think what that shows to me is when you have a lot of those depth pieces that are converting and turning goals, that's going to create a successful lacrosse team. So, you look at a guy like Adam Charlambides, who's on the lower scale of number of touches, conversely to how many points that he has in the National Lacrosse League. He's going to have less touches this year. I think there's going to be more pressure on a guy like Adam Charlambides to convert in the limited touches that he's going to have with Jesse King and Curtis Dixon in that lineup now, and guys need to share, right? So shooting percentage and I think that touches percentage, I think are 2 really good indicators of what makes an elite offensive player.
Interesting, because my immediate thought was well, who are the worst in the league? I mean, right? You kind of think about, who's the best in the league, who's the worst in the league, not because you're trying to shame somebody. It's just well, who's ineffective, right? Because I never thought about Adam being that way, but you're right. I mean, I haven't fully digested the Warriors yet because of guys like Jesse King and those guys coming in, right? Because I'm going to see him tomorrow night. We're going to talk about that next. But I started thinking who's really ineffective in terms of touches to then convert. You probably pulled the stats. Yeah,
you know what? I didn't. I had a positive lens on, so I kind of that wasn't at the forefront. But I did notice Charlambides did have a bit of a differential there. But yeah, that would be a fun one to go pull. I might even try to bring that up right now while we're talking and just see if there's anything that jumps out. Because like I said, 8 to 10 is going to put you in elite categories. But who's flogging the most shots that are going wide and not converting, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I've sort of run through most of my questions. I'm going to save this best part for last because I got some stats about tomorrow night's game. Obviously, we're going to set up one of the final things we're going to do. We're going to set up the Vancouver Warriors home opener tomorrow night, Saturday, November 20th, at Rogers Arena against the Colorado Mammoth. And I pulled one stat. Keegan Ball returning for his 9th season after setting the franchise record 112 points last year, 43 goals, 69 assists. I mean, obviously, just as much expected from Keegan this year. Let's talk a little bit about the Warriors a bit because I've had Gravitsky on my podcast twice already in the preseason. We talked about a lot of things developing there, the chemistry developing. Let's start with Keegan Ball, and then we'll talk about the Warriors a little more.
Yeah, so Keegan Ball, I actually got a chance to chat with him yesterday, and I'm like, hey man, like you've got Jesse King and Curtis Dixon coming into the lineup. Like, what are you going through? What are you thinking? And he's like a kid in a candy store. Like he's just thinking that he's got two offensive superstars that are joining his team, and now like on paper they have one of the best offenses in the National Lacrosse League, and now they need to prove their mettle. And he's so excited. Like this, Keegan's got absolutely no ego. And I think like this has been his franchise for the better part of a decade. He's led the leading team. He led the team in scoring every single year. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to let these other guys come in that have also scored 100 points in this league and have been in MVP races, but absolutely no ego. Like Keegan just wants to win a National Lacrosse League championship. So he's welcomed these guys with open arms. He said that they've obviously played in the Kurt Milosky system, so they speak the same language. They know that they run the same offense. It's a real easy transition. And he's had a lot of, like, Keegan's kind of a quiet guy. And so I'm like, what's your relationship like with Jesse and Curtis? Like, you've never played with them? Have you ever even met them or had a beer with them or anything like that? And he's like, no, but it's just been mutual respect over the years, like game recognized game. And they're all clean lacrosse players. They're all good, family men. And apparently the bond's been great so far to start. So, I don't know if Keegan Ball is going to set the franchise record again with over 112 points like he did last season, but I don't think anybody in that Warriors roster really cares. I think they just want to go out there and put it all together and win lacrosse games.
Yeah, and I remember when I was talking to Ty that time too, he said that he felt last year, I don't remember where it is on his site, but I know he and I talked about it, that he felt the Warriors offense last year was a little bit suspect. Even before they got Christian, he felt they had a great defense, and Walsh was a good goalie, and then obviously Connor O'Toole, right? So now that they've done this to the offense, and looking at Ty's recent ranking, he picked the Warriors to make the NLL final, but then not win. So that's what he's predicted for Vancouver. I don't know who he actually predicted to win. Maybe Saskatchewan. I think he did. I don't know.
There's a lot of favorites for Saskatchewan right now for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's keep going on the Warriors because obviously,
I found one. I don't back down from a challenge. So I found one. I'm gonna say awesome, I'm just crunching numbers. Josh Dawick.
Okay.
So he was one of the leading scorers. He was the leading scorer for the Toronto Rock last season. 75 points on 1,105 touches. That only puts his conversion rate, though, at 0.67%. So that's going to be
What did you use for this? A spreadsheet? You got a cheat?
Just calculator. So I just compared his touches to his amount of points.
Okay.
And quick calculation puts that at 0.67. So that, like I said, the best players on your team need to be 8, 10%. 9, 10%. He was the best player on Toronto last season statistically, but he's at 67, right? If he had a better shooting percentage, that number is going to be a lot higher. So he's an interesting case. He led his team in scoring, but as far as like the league's elite goes, his conversion percentage wasn't as high. But back to the Warriors offense. Like, they were quiet at times. They went through slumps. They were streaky. There was games where they couldn't buy the big goal that they needed. But they brought in those pieces to fix that this year. Like Curtis Dixon, what more can you say? One of the greatest goal scorers of all time. When he's going to bang you 35, 40 goals in his sleep. So that's going to help. Jesse King's going to help facilitate. Marcus Clarich has taken another step this year. And a guy that we haven't talked about and no one's really talking about because he's getting lost in the shuffle is Ryan Sheridan for Vancouver. He played for his rookie season for Panther City. He went to expansion. Vancouver picked him up 4th in the expansion draft when that team folded. And he didn't play last year because he had a knee injury. But went in the summer, put up some good minutes for Nanaimo this year, got called up to the Bellies for that Man Cup run. And that's essentially like getting a first-round draft pick into your roster. You got a guy who's in his early mid-20s, who's already played a season in the league, who's going to now play on a side of the ball with Dixon and Keegan Ball. So they've got a really deep offense this year, probably the deepest they've ever had. Cormier, Claris, like all these guys are capable of putting the ball in the net. So I don't think we're going to see those kind of droughts that we saw last year with these elite weapons that they've got.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the Mammoth, because I listened to your conversation with Andrew McBride. So what do we Mammoth? Because you mentioned off the top, I believe when Andrew was still there, that back-to-back NLL final appearances for the Mammoth, and then they kind of fell off the radar, right?
Yeah. They went to 2 in a row. They won in 22. They lost in 23. Then they've missed the playoffs the last 2 years. They've had the injury bug. Like, Ryan Lee's kind of never been himself after his knee injury. They lose Eli McLaughlin to firefighter school. It doesn't sound like he'll be back at all this National Lacrosse League
I forgot
season,
about Eli McLaughlin, actually.
It's crazy. Like, you look at their top 6 scorers from last season are no longer with the team. So their entire offense really is getting flipped and turned on its head. But again, like on paper going into it, they've replenished and put some really good pieces in. They got the 5th overall draft pick in Braden Saris, who's going to put up some numbers. They've got another year with Will Malcolm leading the lefties. And then Andrew freaking Q. Like, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you got into any of the Bellies games against Victoria in the playoffs, but like Andrew Q to me was maybe one of the MVP candidate in the WLA. I love his game. I love the way he shoots the ball. Right. So smart, so smooth, and he just fell into their lap in a trade this offseason. So Q, Dylan McIntosh comes over in a trade from Vancouver. Ben McDonald's another year older. Thomas Vella's another year older. Like, they've got a lot of pieces. And speaking to their head coach Pat Coyle this week, he felt that their offense has been kind of stagnant and stale the last 2 years. They've made a lot of mistakes. They've turned the ball over a lot of unforced errors, bad passes. And they wanted to bring in some high IQ, kind of really clean, fundamentally sound guys to help clean that up. And that's what Q and that's what Saris are going to bring. And you've got Dylan Ward in net and a Pat Coyle defense. So I think it's going to be a bounce back year for the Colorado Mammoth. I think they've got playoffs in their sights for sure. And it's going to be a good test tomorrow night. Like, they're dominant against Vancouver. They're 3-10 since the Vancouver Warriors became the Vancouver Warriors. So it's been pretty lopsided. The Warriors have never won in Denver. They're 3-3 at home against Colorado. Molosky's Warriors have never beaten Pat Coyle's Mammoth. So there's a lot of storylines, undertones to this one tomorrow. I still think it's a great rivalry. Even though they only play each other once this year and once last year. There's been years where they used to play 2 or 3 times and there'd be a lot of bad blood, but they had a scrap in the preseason last week, and there's going to be some spillover into tomorrow night. I guarantee it.
Okay. Yeah, no, this sounds awesome. And one of the things I was surprised at too, I was looking at Inside Lacrosse's site, and they had a roster by roster team breakdown. I don't know if you knew about this, but it caught my attention. Was the status of Alex Stathak, who for me came out at home last year for the Warriors strictly as a face-off guy, and he scored a couple of nice goals too. Stathakis is not playing at all. What do you know about his status? Because that one surprised me. Like, when I looked at that Inside Lacrosse page, and he's listed as medically unfit to play.
Yeah, he's hurt. I think Kurt said it on Jake Elliott's Lacrosse Classified this week. I think it was. They're expecting him back at some point. They don't have really a time frame on it yet, but that's a huge loss. Like, Kurt really values possession and values faceoffs. And Staff played great for them last year, and he played some good defensive minutes too. And they're going up against the Colorado team tomorrow night, who just signed or just drafted Matthew Pilato, who they have high hopes for to be kind of like their Stathakis. And I know that Kurt's not going to be happy, winning 30% of faceoffs against a really good guy like Pilato. So it's going to be a platoon. It's going to be a team effort for the first little bit until they get Stathakis back. You'll probably see Owen Grant, Reese Callies, Martel when he's healthy. Like, they've got a few guys that can take faceoffs, but they're probably not going to be 50-50 to start the season. But if they're around 40-45 and they're battling for loose balls, they can still be successful. But no, I think you're exactly right. Like, he was such a huge part of their season last year, especially down the stretch in the postseason. Like, you need the ball. You need your offense to get in the rhythm. You need to get the ball after you score a goal to keep momentum on. So he'll be missed for sure.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thanks, Brad. But let's take a few aggressive steps here, like we said, coming out swinging. Your playoff teams for this season. Can you list them off? One, two.
Yeah, okay, list them off. So I said on Off the Crossbar that I think we'd see 50% turnover in the playoff teams this year.
Okay.
So if I bring up the standings, like I think of the 8 teams that got in last year, Buffalo, Saskatchewan, Halifax, Vancouver, Rochester, Calgary, Georgia, San Diego, I think 4 of those teams could miss this year. I think that could be, I think Calgary, Georgia, San Diego, and possibly Halifax are the teams that are on the fence there. I think Buffalo, Saskatchewan, Vancouver, and Rochester are the no-brainers. But then the 4 teams to replace those teams to get into the postseason, that's where it gets interesting. Like I think Colorado could get in. I think Oshawa could get in. I think Toronto could get in. And I'm kind of torn between Ottawa and Vegas as the other team to get in there. But I think 50% turnover. I think we see Buffalo, Saskatchewan, Vancouver, Rochester, Colorado, Oshawa, Toronto, and you got to flip a coin. I might go Ottawa to get in there. Canadian dominance, I think, is the theme, though, right? Like I think every Canadian team has a chance of getting in.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Because Calgary and Halifax on the fence, but I like everybody else.
Yeah, because I just looking at Ty's site. We'll plug it one last time. He's got Saskatchewan winning the NLL championship.
And that's not a bad take at all. Building on what they did almost nothing in the offseason because they're so confident with their group. They didn't want to disrupt any chemistry. And I think they probably overperformed last year. And I think this was maybe the year they were targeting to make a good run. So to build off that experience that they had last year, it's gonna be a special year for these guys for sure.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thanks, Brad. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Yeah, nice to see you again, man. We'll talk soon, man. See you see you around the rink.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. Bye-bye.
All right, cheers, buddy. Bye.
Bye.